My mother's letter arrived 3 months after her death, but my jobless husband was busy draining my savings for his parents. When I caught him sneaking into my late mother's house, he wasn't alone, and their secret nearly destroyed everything. The letter arrived on a Tuesday, tucked between bills and junk mail like it wasn't about to blow my entire life apart. My mother's familiar handwriting jumped out at me immediately, which was impossible since she'd been dead for 3 months. My name is Harper, and until that moment, I thought I had my life figured out: good job, decent marriage, and enough stability to keep the existential dread at bay most days. But there I stood in my kitchen, holding an envelope that shouldn't exist, while my husband Noah's voice drifted in from the living room as he took another important call about potential job prospects. "This has to be old mail," I muttered, turning the envelope over. The postmark was from last week. My hands started shaking as I slid my finger under the flap. The sound of Noah's footsteps made me shove the letter into my jacket pocket. He appeared in the doorway, running a hand through his dark hair, a nervous towel I'd picked up on years ago. "Hey, babe, any word from that consulting firm?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "They're still reviewing candidates." He wouldn't meet my eyes. "Listen, I need to borrow some money from your personal account. Mom and Dad are having trouble with their mortgage again." The letter seemed to burn against my ribs through the pocket. "Noah, we talked about this. We're already stretched thin covering both our expenses since you lost your job. It's just temporary," he insisted, that familiar defensive edge creeping into his voice. "They helped us out when we first got married, remember?" I bit back what I really wanted to say. 3 months of temporary support was already straining our savings, but pointing that out would just lead to another argument about family loyalty and obligation, usually ending with me feeling like the villain for suggesting his parents figure out their own finances. "I'll think about it," I said instead, which was our code for not really, but I don't want to fight right now. As soon as Noah left for another networking meeting at his favorite bar, I pulled out the letter with trembling fingers and began to read. "My dearest Harper, if you're reading this, I'm gone, and the timing is critical. I've arranged for this letter to be delivered 3 months after my death because I needed to be certain about something first. Check the loose floorboard in my old studio, the one by the window where you used to sit and watch me paint. What you'll find there will explain everything. But sweetheart, be careful who you trust with this information. Sometimes, the people closest to us have the most to gain from our silence. All my love, Mom." I sank into a kitchen chair, my mind racing. Mom's house, my childhood home, was sitting empty while I figured out what to do with it. Or at least, it was supposed to be empty. But last week, I'd driven by and noticed lights on inside. I'd assumed it was just my imagination or maybe a timer I'd forgotten about. My phone buzzed with a text from Noah, having dinner with Mom and Dad. "Don't wait up." I grabbed my keys before I could talk myself out of it. The drive to Mom's house took 20 minutes, each one filled with questions. What did she hide? Why wait 3 months? And why did her warning about trust make my stomach twist with dread? As I pulled up to the curb, my headlights swept across the front of the house and caught movement behind the living room curtains. Someone was definitely inside. I killed the engine and sat there, heart pounding, as a familiar car pulled into the driveway, Noah's car, the same one he was supposed to be taking to his parents' house across town. The porch light clicked on, and through the window, I saw my mother-in-law Evelyn's face clear as day inside my mother's house. I didn't confront them that night. Instead, I drove home in a daze, my mother's letter burning a hole in my pocket and questions burning holes in my mind. The next morning, I got ready for work like everything was normal, like I hadn't caught my husband and his mother sneaking around my dead mother's house. The promotion announcement came during the morning meeting. My boss beamed as she told everyone I'd be taking over as head of financial operations. Under different circumstances, this would have been the highlight of my year. Now, it felt like one more match being tossed onto an already smoldering pile of kindling. Noah was waiting at home when I got back, sprawled on the couch with his laptop. "How was work?" he asked, not looking up. "I got the promotion." I kept my voice neutral, watching his reaction. His fingers stopped typing. "Oh. Just that, one syllable, heavy with something that wasn't quite congratulations. Have you told Mom and Dad yet? Why would I tell your parents before telling you?" He finally met my eyes. "They're coming over for dinner tonight. I thought we could celebrate as a family." My stomach clenched. "You invited them without asking me? Come on, Harper. They're just trying to be supportive." 2 hours later, I was setting the table while Evelyn hovered in my kitchen, rearranging my spice rack to make more sense. Every time I looked at her, I remembered her silhouette in my mother's window. "Noah tells us you got a promotion," Walter said from his seat at the head of my table, a spot he'd always claimed without asking. "That's quite a responsibility. Are you sure you're ready for that kind of pressure?" "I've been doing most of the work already," I replied, placing down the last fork with perhaps more force than necessary. "The title just makes it official." Evelyn turned from the spice rack. "But surely, with Noah between positions right now, you'll want to focus more on supporting him. A wife's primary duty is to her husband, after all." I caught Noah's slight wince. He opened his mouth, probably to change the subject, but I was done playing nice. Actually, I said, my primary duty is to my career, which is currently supporting this entire household. The room went silent. Walter's face darkened, and Evelyn pressed her hand to her chest like I'd physically struck her. Harper, Noah warned quietly. No, let's talk about it, I continued, surprising myself with how steady my voice was. Let's talk about how I'm paying our mortgage, our bills, and somehow still finding money to help with your parents' expenses. Let's talk about why you were at my mother's house last night when you told me you were having dinner with them. The color drained from Noah's face. Evelyn's hand dropped from her chest, and her expression shifted from shocked to calculated. We were simply checking on the property, she said smoothly. As family, we feel responsible for helping maintain it while you're dealing with your grief. That's interesting, I replied, considering I never gave anyone permission to enter the house. Noah has a key, Walter cut in. And as your husband, as my husband, he has no legal right to that property. It's not in his name. Noah stood up suddenly. Can we discuss this later? In private? Why? I challenged. So you can come up with better excuses? You're being hysterical, Evelyn said, her voice dripping with concern that didn't reach her eyes. This is exactly why we worry about you taking on too much responsibility. The stress is clearly affecting your judgment, I laughed, a sharp, bitter sound that seemed to startle everyone, including myself. My judgment is just fine. In fact, it's never been clearer. I pulled my mother's letter from my pocket and placed it on the table. Would anyone like to explain why my dead mother felt the need to warn me about trusting the people closest to me? The silence that followed was deafening. Noah stared at the letter like it was a snake about to strike, but it was Evelyn's reaction that confirmed my suspicions, the flash of recognition in her eyes before she could hide it.